Good morning, Heavenly Father. Thank you for this day, your day, the seventh day, the Sabbath day, your blessed day, your Kadash day. Thank you, Father, for everything that you're doing in the land. Thank you. Thank you for placing in my heart the desire to follow you, to get in your word more deeply, to read it with understanding and wisdom. And Father, please endow me with those things, with greater understanding, with greater wisdom, and not in, as I like to say, an egotistical way or a way of being more than or anything, but just to understand you, Father, and what it is that you're trying to say, what it is that I need to know in this hour. Father, give me wisdom. Give me a measure of wisdom. Give me revelation. Father, forgive my sins and the things that I've done knowingly and unknowingly. Father, please forgive any doors that I've opened. Father, I reject anything other than you and fully submit myself to you, to the Creator of heaven and earth, to the Almighty, to the one who sits on the throne. Father, be with me, be with those who wish to join me, and thank you, Father. Thank you for all things that you do in this hour. Thank you, Father. Thank you. Thank you. These and all things I pray in your Son's name. So be it and may it be so. Okay, so chapter 15. Again. After these events, the word of Yah came to Abram in a vision, saying, "Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. Your reward is exceedingly great." And Abram said, "Adonai, what would you give me, seeing I go childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus?" And Abram said, "See, you have given me no seed, and see, one born in my house is heir. And see, the word of Yah came to him, saying, This one is not your heir, but he who comes from your own body is your heir." And he brought him outside and said, "Now look now toward the Shamaim and count the stars, if you are able to count them." And he said to him, "So are your seed." And he believed in Yah, and he reckoned it to him for righteousness. And he said to him, "I am Yah who brought you out of Kasdim to give you this land to inherit it." And he said, "Adonai, Yah, whereby do I know that I possess it?" And he said to him, "Bring me a 3-year-old heifer, and a 3-year-old female goat, and a 3-year-old ram, and turtle dove, and a young pigeon." And he took all these to him, and cut them in the middle, and placed each half opposite the other, but he did not cut the birds. And the birds of prey came down on the carcasses, and Abram drove them away. And it came to be, when the sun was going down, and a deep sleep fell upon Abram, that a frightening great darkness fell upon him. And he said to Abram, "Know for certain that your seed are to be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. But the nation whom they serve I am going to judge, and afterward let them come out with great possessions. Now as for you, you are to go to your fathers in peace, and are to be buried at a good old age. Then in the 4th generation they shall return here, for the wickedness of the Amorites is not yet complete." And it came to be, when the sun went down and it was dark, that a smoking oven and burning torch passing between those pieces. On the same day Yah made a covenant with Abram, saying, "I have given this land to your seed, from the river of Mitzrayim to the great river, the river of Parath, with the Kenizzite, and the Quadmanite, and the Hizzite, and the Perizzite, and the Rephaim, and the Amorite, and the Canaanite, and the Girgashite, and the Jebusite." Chapter 16. And Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no child, and she had a Mizrite female servant, whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said to Abram, "See, Yah has kept me from bearing children. Please go in to my female servant. It might be that I am built up by her." And Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her female servant, the Mizrite, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan. And he went into Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said to Abram, "My wrong be unto you. I gave my female servant into your bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I despised in her eye. I was despised in her eyes. Let Yah judge between you and me. And Abram said to Sarai, see, your female servant is in your hand. Do to her what is good in your eyes. And Sarai treated her harshly, and she fled from her presence. And the messenger of Yah found her by the spring of water in the wilderness, by the spring on the way to Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's female servant, where have you come from, and where are you going? And she said, I am fleeing from the presence of Sarai, my mistress. And the messenger of Yah said to her, return to your mistress and humble yourself under her hand. And the messenger of Yah said to her, I am going to increase your seed greatly, too numerous to be counted. And the messenger of Yah said to her, see, you are conceiving and bearing a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because Yah has heard your affliction, and he is to be a wild man, his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and dwell over against all his brothers. And she called the name of Yah who spoke to her, you are the El who sees. For she said, even here have I seen after him who sees me. That is why the well was called Ber Lahai Roy. See, it is between Kadesh and Barad. And Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram named the name of his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael. And Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. And it came, chapter 17, and it came to be, when Abram was 99 years old, that Yah appeared to Abram and said to him, I'm El Shaddai, walk before me and be perfect. And I give my covenant between me and you, and shall greatly increase you. And Abram fell on his face, and Elohim and Yah spoke with him, saying, as for me, look, my covenant is with you, and you shall become a father of many nations. And no longer is your name called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, because I shall make you a father of many nations. And I shall make you bear fruit exceedingly, and make nations of you, and sovereigns shall come from you. And I shall establish my covenant between me and you, and your seed after you, and their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be Yah to you, and your seed after you. And I shall give to you and your seed after you the land of your sojournings, all the land of Canaan, as an everlasting possession. And I shall be their Elohim, and I shall be their Yah. And Yah said to Abraham, as for you, guard my covenant, you and your seed after you. And I shall establish my covenant between me and you and your seed after you, and their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be Yah to you and your seed after you. And I shall give to you and your seed after you the land of your sojournings, all the land of Canaan, as an everlasting possession, and I shall be their Yah. And Yah said to Abraham, as for you, guard my covenant, you and your seed after you throughout their generations. This is my covenant which you guard between me and you and your seed after you. Every male child among you is to be circumcised, and you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall become a sign of covenant between me and you. And a son of 8 days is circumcised by you, every male child in your generations, he who is born in your house or brought with silver from any foreigner who is not of your seed. He who is born in your house and he who is brought with your silver has to be circumcised. So shall my covenant be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And an uncircumcised male child who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, his life shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. He has broken my covenant. And Yah said to Abram, as for Sarai, your wife, do not call her name Sarai, for Sarah is her name. I'm sorry, I have dogs. And I shall barak her, and also give you a son by her. And I shall barak her, and she shall become nations. Sovereigns of peoples are to be from her. And Abraham fell on his face and laughed, and said in his heart, is a child born to a man who is 100 years old, or is Sarai who is 90 years old to bear a child? And Abraham said to Yah, oh, let Ishmael live before you. And Yah said, no, Sarah, your wife, is truly bearing a son to you, and you shall call his name Yitzchak. And I shall establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I've heard you. See, I shall barak him, and shall make him bear fruit and greatly increase him. He is to bring forth 12 princes, and I shall make him a great nation. But my covenant I establish with Yishak, whom Sarah is to bear to you at the appointed time next year. And when he had ended speaking with him, Yah went up from Abraham. Okay. He who is born, I'm going to go back to 12. And a son of 8 days is circumcised by you, every male child in your generations. He who is born in your house or bought with silver from any foreigner who is not of your seed. He who is born in your house and he who is bought with your silver has to be circumcised. So shall my covenant be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And an uncircumcised male child who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, his life shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. And Yah said to Abraham, as for Sarai your wife, do not call her name Sarai, for Sarah is her name. And I shall barak her, and also give you a son by her. And I shall barak her, and she shall become nations. Sovereigns of people are to be from her. And Abraham fell on his face and laughed, and said in his heart, is a child born to a man who is 100 years old, or is Sarah, who is 90 years old, to bear a child? And Abraham said to Yah, oh, let Ishmael live before you. And Yah said, no, Sarai your wife is truly bearing a son to you, and you shall call his name Ishak. And I shall establish my covenant with him, and for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. Please excuse me, I think I just reread a large passage of something that I had already read. But here we go. Verse 20 of chapter 17. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. See, I shall barak him, and shall make him bear fruit and greatly increase him. He is to bring forth 12 princes, and I shall make him a great nation. But my covenant I establish with Yishak, whom Sarah is to bear to you at this appointed time next year. And when he had ended speaking with him, Yah went up from Abraham. And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all those born in his house, and all those brought with his silver, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskins that same day as Yah told him. And Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, and Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. Abraham and his son Ishmael were circumcised that same day, and all the men of his house born in the house or brought with silver from a foreigner were circumcised with him. Chapter 18. And Yah appeared to him by the terebinth tree of Mamre, while he was sitting in the tent door in the heat of the day. So he lifted his eyes and looked, and saw 3 men standing opposite him. And when he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them, and bowed himself to the ground, and said, Yah, if I have now found favor in your eyes, please do not pass your servant by. Please let a little water be brought, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And let me bring a piece of bread, and refresh your hearts, and then go on, for this is why you have come to your servant. And they said, do as you have said. So Abraham ran into the tent to Sarai, and said, hurry, make ready 3 seahs of fine flour, knead it, and make cakes. And Abraham ran to the herd, took a tender and good calf, gave it to the young man, and he hurried to prepare it. And he took curds and milk and the calf which he had prepared, and put it before them, and he stood by them under the tree as they ate. And they said to him, where is Sarah your wife? And he said, see, in the tent. And he said, I shall certainly return to you according to the time of life, and see, Sarah your wife is to have a son. And Sarah was listening to the tent door, which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, well advanced in age, and Sarah was past the way of women. And Sarah laughed within herself, saying, after I have grown old, shall I have pleasure in my master being old too? And Yah said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh, saying, shall I truly have a child, since I am old? And is any matter too hard for Yah? At the appointed time I am going to return to you, according to the time of life. and Sarah is to have a son. But Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. And he said, no, but you did laugh. And the men rose up from there and looked toward Sedom, and Abraham went with them to send them away. And Yah said, shall I hide from Abraham what I am doing? Since Abraham is certainly going to become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be Barak in him. For I have known him so that he commands his children and his household after him to guard the way of Yah, to do righteousness and right ruling, so that Yah brings to Abraham what he has spoken to him. And Yah said, because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, or Sodom and Gomorrah, and because their sin is very heavy, I am going down now to see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry against it that has come to me, and if not, I know. So the men turned away from there and went toward Sodom, and Abraham still stood there before Yah. And Abraham drew near and said, would you also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Would you also destroy the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous that were in it? Far be it from you to act in this way, to slay the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous should be as the wicked. Far be it from you. Does the judge of all the earth not do right? And Yah said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I shall spare all the place for their sakes. And Abraham answered and said, Look, please, I who am but dust and ashes have taken it upon myself to speak to Yah. Suppose there are 5 less than 50 righteous. Would you destroy all the city for lack of 5? And he said, if I find there 45, I do not destroy it. And he said to him yet again, and he spoke to him yet again and said, suppose there are found 40. And he said, I would not do it for the sake of 40. And he said, let not Yah be displeased, and let me speak. Suppose there are found 30. And he said, I would not do it if I find 30 there. And he said, look, please, I have taken it upon myself to speak to Yah. Suppose there are found 20. And he said, I would not destroy it for the sake of 20. And he said, let not Yah be displeased, and let me speak only this time. Suppose there are found 10. Suppose there are found 10. And he said, I would not destroy it for the sake of 10. Then Yah went away as soon as he had ended speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. Chapter 19. And the 2 messengers came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. And when Lot saw them, he rose up to meet them. And he bowed himself with his face toward the ground, and he said, look, please, my masters, please turn in to your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet and rise early and go on your way. And they said, no, but let us spend the night in the open square. But he urged them strongly, and they turned into him and came into his house. And he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. Before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both old and young, all the people from every part, surrounded the house. And they called to Lot and said to him, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us and let us know them. So Lot went out to them through the doorway and shut the door behind him. And said, please, let me read that over. So Lot went out to them through the doorway and shut the door behind him, and said, please, my brothers, do not do evil. Look, please, I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Please let me bring them out to you, and do to them as is good in your eyes. Only do no deed to these men, because they have come under the shadow of my roof. But they said, stand back. And they said, this one came into sojourn, and should he always judge? Now we are going to treat you worse than them. So they pressed hard against the man Lot, and came near to break down the door. But the men reached out their hands and pulled Lot into the house with them and shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the doorway, all of the house with blindness, both small and great, and they wearied themselves to find the door. And the men said to Lot, have you anyone else here, a son-in-law? And your sons and your daughters and whomever you have in the city, bring them out of this place, for we are going to destroy this place, because the cry against them has grown great before the face of Yah, and Yah has sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, and who had married his daughters, and said, get up, get out of this place, for Yah is going to destroy the city. But to his sons-in-law he seemed to be as one joking. And when morning dawned, the messengers urged Lot to hurry, saying, get up, take your wife and your two daughters who are here, lest you be consumed in the punishment of the city. And while he lingered, the men took hold of his hand and his wife's hand and the hands of his two daughters, Yah having compassion on him, and they brought him out and put him outside the city. And it came to be, when they had brought them outside, that he said, escape for your life, do not look behind you, nor stay anywhere in the plain, escape to the mountains, lest you be consumed. And Lot said to them, oh no, Yah, look, please, your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have increased your kindness, which you have shown me by saving my life. But I am unable to escape to the mountains, lest calamity overtake me and I die. Look, please, this city is near enough to flee to, and it is small. Please let me escape there. It is not a small matter, and let my life be saved. And he said to him, look, I have favored you concerning this matter also, without overthrowing the city for which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, for I am not able to do any deed until you arrive there. So the name of the city was called Tesor. The sun had risen upon the earth when Lot entered Tesor, and Yah rained sulfur and fire on Sodom and Amorah from Yah out of the Shamaim. So he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and what grew on the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a post of salt. And Abraham arose early in the morning to the place where he had stood before Yah, and he looked toward Sodom and Amorah and toward all the land of the plain. Okay, he looked and saw the smoke of the land, which went up like the smoke of the furnace. Thus it came to be, when Yah destroyed the cities of the plain, that Yah remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had dwelt. And Lot went up out of Tesor and dwelt in the mountains, and his two daughters were with him. For he was afraid to dwell in Tesor, and he and his two daughters dwelt in a cave. And the firstborn said to the younger, our father is old, and there is no man on the earth to come into us. Okay, come, let us make our father drink wine and lie with him, so that we preserve the seed of our father. So they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he was not aware of it when she lay down and when she rose. And it came to be on the next day that the firstborn said to the younger, see, I lay with my father last night. Let us make him drink wine tonight as well, and you go in and lie with him, so that we keep the seed of our father. So they made their father drink wine that night as well, and the younger arose and lay with him, and he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she arose. Thus both the daughters of Lot became pregnant by their father. And the firstborn bore a son and called his name Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. And the younger, she also bore a son and called his name Ben-Ami. He is the father of the children of Ammon to this day. And Abraham departed from there to the land of, chapter 20, and Abraham departed from there to the land of the Negeb, and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur, and stayed in the Gerar. And Abraham said concerning Sarai his wife, she is my sister. And Abimelech, sovereign of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. But Yah came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, see, you are a dead man because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is a man's wife. However, Abimelech had not come near her, and he said, Yah, would you slay a righteous nation also? Did he not say to me, she is my sister? And she even she herself said, he is my brother. In the integrity of my hands, I have not done this. And Yah said to him in a dream, though I know that you did this in the integrity of your heart, and so I kept from you from sinning against me. For this reason, I did not let you touch her. And now return the man's wife, for he is a Nabi, and let him pray for you, and you live. But if you do not return her, know that you shall certainly die, you and all that are yours. So Abimelech rose early in the morning and called all his servants and spoke all these words in their hearing. And the men were greatly frightened. And Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, what have you done to us? And what have I sinned against you, that you have brought on me and on my reign a great sin? And you have done matters to me that should not be done. And Abimelech said to Abraham, what did you have in view, that you have done this matter? And Abraham said, only because I said the reverence of Yah is not in this place, and they shall kill me for the sake of my wife. And yet she is truly my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. And she became my wife. And it came to be, when Yah caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said to her, this is your kindness that you should do for me. In every place wherever we go, say of me, he is my brother. Then Abimelech took sheep and cattle and male and female servants and gave them to Abraham. And he returned Sarah, his wife, to him. And Abimelech said, see, my land is before you. Dwell wherever is good in your eyes. And to Sarah he said, see, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. See, it is to you a covering of eyes before all who are with you and before all others, and you are cleared before everyone. And Abraham prayed to Yah, and Yah healed Abimelech and his wife and his female servants, so they could bear children. For Yah had closed up all the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. Chapter 21. And Yah visited Sarah as he had said, and Yah did for Sarah as he had spoken. So Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age at the appointed time of which Yah had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son, which was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him, Yishak. And Abraham circumcised his son Yishak when he was 8 days old, and Yah had commanded him. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Yishak was born to him. And Sarah said, Yah has made me laugh, and everyone who hears of it laughs with me. And she said, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nourish children? For I have borne him a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on the day that Yishak was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Mizrite, whom she had borne to Abraham, mocking. So she said to Abraham, drive out this female servant and her son, for the son of this female servant shall not inherit with my son, with Yishak. And the matter was very evil in the eyes of Abraham because of his son. But Yah said to Abraham, let it not be evil in your eyes because of the boy, and because of your female servant. Whatever Sarah has said to you, listen to her voice, for in Yishak your seed is called. And of the son of the female servant I also make a nation, because he is your seed. And Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water, which he gave to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder, also the boy, and sent her away. And she left and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water and the skin was used up, and she placed the boy under one of the shrubs, and she went and sat down about a bow shot away, for she said, let me not see the death of the boy. For she sat opposite him and lifted her voice and wept. And Yah heard the voice of the boy, and the messenger of Yah came to Hagar from the Shamaim and said to her, what is the matter with you, Hagar? Do not fear, for Yah has heard the voice of the boy where he is. Arise, lift up the boy and hold him with your hand, for I make a great nation of him. And Yah opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the skin with the water and gave the boy a drink. And Yah was with the boy, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness and became an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him from the land of Mitzrayim. And it came to be at that time that Abimelech and Pichol, the commander of his army, spoke to Abraham, saying, Yah is with you in all you do. And now swear to me by Yah not to be untrue to me, to be my offspring, or to my descendants. Do to me according to the kindness that I have done to you, and to the land in which you have dwelt. And Abraham said, I swear. And Abraham reproved Abimelech because of the well of water which Abimelech's servant had seized. And Abimelech said, I do not know who has done this deed. Neither did you inform me, nor did I hear until today. So Abraham took sheep and cattle and gave them to Abimelech, and the two of them made a covenant. And Abraham put seven ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. And Abimelech asked Abraham, what are these 7 ewe lambs which you have put by themselves? And he said, take these 7 ewe lambs from my hand, to be my witness that I have dug this well. So he called that place Beersheba, because the two of them swore an oath there. Thus they made a covenant at Beersheba. And Abimelech rose with Phicol, the commander of his army, and they returned to the land of the Philistines. And he planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and there called on the name of Yah, the everlasting Yah. And Abraham sojourned in the land of the Philistines many days. Okay, chapter 22. And it came to be after these events that Yah tried Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he said, Here I am. And he said, Take your son, now your only son, Yishak, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains which I command you. And Abraham rose early in the morning and saddled his donkey and took 2 of his young men with him and Yishak his son. And he split the wood for the burnt offering and rose and went to the place which Yah had commanded him. And on the 3rd day Abraham lifted his eyes and saw the place from a distance. So Abraham said to his young men, Stay here with the donkey while the boy and I go over there and worship and come back to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Yishak his son. And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and the 2 of them went together. And Yishak spoke to Abraham his father and said, My father. And he said, Here I am, my son. And he said, See the fire and the wood, but there is a lamb. But where is the lamb for the burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, Yah provides for himself the lamb for a burnt offering. And the 2 of them went together. And they came to a place which Yah had commanded him. And Abraham built an altar there and placed the wood in order. And he bound Yishak his son and laid him on the altar upon the wood. Abraham stretched out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the messenger of Yah called to him from the Shamaim and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. And he said, Do not lay your hand on your boy. Do not touch him, nor touch him. For now I know that you revere Yah, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. And Abraham lifted his eyes and looked and saw behind him a ram caught in a bush by its horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up for a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham called the name of this place Yahweh, as it is said to this day, on the mountain Yah provides. And the messenger of Yah called to Abraham a 2nd time from the Shamaim and said, By myself I have sworn, declares Yah, because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, that I shall certainly barak you, and I shall certainly increase your seed, as the stars of the Shamaim, as the sand which is on the seashore, and let your seed possess the gate of their enemies. And in your seed all the nations of the earth shall be barak, because you have obeyed my voice. Then Abraham returned to his young men, and they rose up and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. And it came to be after these events that it was reported to Abraham, saying, See, Milcah too has borne children to your brother Nahor, Ut his firstborn, and Buz his brother, and Quamel the father of Aram, and Kesed, and Hazo, and Peldash, and Yidlaf, and Bethuel. And Bethuel brought forth Ribkah. These 8 Milcah bore to Nahor, Abraham's brother, and his concubine, whose name was Ramah, also bore Tibah, and Gaham, and Tahash, and Makkah. Chapter 23. And Sarah lived 127 years, the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died in Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. Then Abraham rose up from beside his bed and spoke to the sons of Heth, saying, I am a foreigner and a sojourner among you. Give me property for a burial site among you, so that I may bury my dead from my presence. And the sons of Heth answered Abraham, saying to him, Hear us, my master. You are a prince of Yah among us. Bury your deed in the choicest of our burial places. None of us withholds from you his burial site from burying your dead. So Abraham rose and bowed himself to the people of the land and the sons of Heth. And he spoke with them, saying, If it is your desire that I bury my dead from my presence, hear me, and approach Ephron, son of Sahor, for me, and let me have the cave of Machpelah, which he has, which is at the end of his field. Let him give it to me for the complete amount of silver as property for a burial site among you. And Ephron dwelt among the sons of Heth, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the hearing of the sons of Heth, all who entered at the gate of his city, saying, No, my master, listen to me. I shall give you the field and the cave that is in it. I shall give it to you in the presence of the sons of my people. I shall give it to you. Bury your dead. And Abraham bowed himself down before the people of the land, and he spoke to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, saying, If only you would hear me, I shall give you the amount of silver for the field. Take it from me, and let me bury my dead there. And Ephron answered Abraham, saying to him, My master, listen to me. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between me and you? So bury your dead. And Abraham listened to Ephron, and Abraham weighed out silver for Ephron, which he had named in the hearing of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, currency of the merchants. Thus the field of Ephron, which was in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, the field and the cave, which was in it, and all the trees that were in the field, which were within all the surrounding borders, were deeded to Abraham as a possession in the presence of the sons of Heth, before all who went in at the gate of the city. And after this, Abraham buried Sarah, his wife, in the cave of the field of Machpelah, before Mamre, that is in Hebron, in the land of Canaan. Thus the field and the cave that is in it were deeded to Abraham by the sons of Heth as property for a burial site. Okay, chapter 24. And Abraham was old, advanced in years, and Yah had Barak Abraham in every way. And Abraham said to the oldest servant of his house, who ruled over all that he had, Please put your hand under my thigh, so that I make you swear by Yah, the Yah of the Shamaim, the Yah of the earth, that you do not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I dwell, but go to my land and to my relatives and take a wife for my son Yishak. And the servant said to him, What if the woman refuses to follow me to this land? Do I then take your son back to the land from which you came? Abraham said to him, Beware, lest you take my son back there. Yah of the Shamaim, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my relatives, and who spoke to me and swore to me, saying, To your seed I give this land, he sends his messenger before you, and you shall take a wife for my son from there. And if the woman refuses to follow you, then you shall be released from this oath. Only do not take my son back there. Then the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham his master, and swore to him concerning this matter. And the servant took 10 of his master's camels, and left, for all his master's goods were in his hand. And he arose and went to Amron Naharaim, to the city of Nahor. And he made his camels kneel down outside the city by a fountain of water at evening time, and the time when women go out to draw water. And he said, Yah of my master Abraham, please meet me before this day and show kindness to my master Abraham. See, I'm standing here by the fountain of water, and the daughters of men of the city are coming out to draw water. And now let it be that the young woman to whom I say, please let down your jar to let me drink. And she says, drink, and let me drink, and let me water your camels too. Let her be the one whom you have appointed for your servant Ishak. And let me know by this that you have shown kindness to my master. And it came to be, before he had ended speaking, that, see, Ribkah, one who was born to Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, came out with her jar on her shoulder. And the young woman was very good looking, a maiden, no man having known her. And she went down to the fountain, filled her jar, and came up. And the servant ran to meet her and said, please let me drink a little water from your jar. And she said, drink, my master. And she hurried and let her jar down to her hand and gave him a drink. And when she had finished giving him a drink, she said, let me draw water for your camels too, until they have finished drinking. Okay, and she hurried and emptied her jar into the trough, ran back to the fountain to draw water, and drew for all his camels. And watching her, the man remained silent, in order to know whether Yah had prospered his way or not. And it came to be, when the camels had finished drinking, that the man took a golden nose ring weighing half a shekel, and 2 bracelets for her wrist, weighing 10 shekels of gold, and said, whose daughter are you? Please inform me. Is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night? And she said to him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, Milcah's son, whom she bore to Nahor. And she said to him, we have both straw and fodder enough, and room to spend the night. And the man bowed down his head and worshipped Yah. And he said, Barak be Yah of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his kindness and his truth toward my master. As for me, being on the way, Yah led me to the house of my master's brothers. Then the young woman ran and informed those of her mother's house these matters. And Ribkah had a brother whose name was Laban, and Laban ran out to the man to the fountain. And it came to be, when he saw the nose ring and the bracelets on the sister's wrist, and when he heard the words of his sister Ribkah saying, thus the man spoke to me, that he went to the man and saw him standing by the camels at the fountain. And he said, come in, O Barak of Yah. Why do you stand outside? I myself have prepared the house and a place for the camels. So the man came into the house while he unloaded the camels, and provided straw and fodder for the camels, and water to wash his feet and the feet of the men who were with him. And put food before him to eat. And he said, let me not eat until I have spoken my word. And he said, speak on. And he said, I am Abraham's servant, and Yah has baraked my master exceedingly, and he has become great. And he has given him flocks and herds and silver and gold and male and female servants and camels and donkeys. And Sarah, my master's wife, bore a son to my master after she was old, and he has given to him all that he has. And my master made me swear, saying, do not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I dwell, but go to my father's house and to my relatives, and take a wife for my son. I'm sorry. And I said to my master, what if the woman does not follow me? Okay. But he said to me, Yah, before whom I walk, sends his messenger with you and shall prosper your way. And you shall take a wife for my son from my relatives and from my father's house. Then when you go to my relatives, you are to be released from this oath. And if they do not give her to you, then you are released from my oath. And this day I came to the fountain and said, Yah, of my master Abraham, please, if you are prospering the way in which I am going, see, I am standing by the fountain of water, and when the maiden comes out to draw water, and I say to her, please give me a little water from your jar to drink, and she says to me, drink. Uh-oh. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I'm just realizing that I went too far back. Apologies, I thought I was in the wrong place. Okay, so I'm at verse 43 of chapter 24 of Bereshith, or Genesis. So, see, I am standing by the fountain of water, and when the maiden comes out to draw water, and I say to her, please give me a little water from your jar to drink, and she says to me, drink and let me draw for your camels too. Let her be the woman whom Yah has appointed for my master's son. I had not yet ended speaking in my heart, then see, Rivkah was coming out with her jar on her shoulder, and she went down to the fountain and drew water, and I said to her, please let me drink, and she hurried and let me drink. And she hurried and let her jar down from her shoulder and said, drink and let me water your camels too. So I drank, and she watered the camels too. And I asked her and said, whose daughter are you? And she said, the daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son, whom Milcah bore to him. Then I put the nose ring on her nose and the bracelets on her wrists, and I bowed my head and worshipped Yah and Barak, Yah of my master Abraham, who had led me